Let's get in Dr. Walter Ladwig, our top voice this week on the show. Senior lecturer at the King's College London joins us live for more on this. Dr. Walter, thanks so much for speaking to NDTV. Let me start by asking you that as far as the India-China relationship is concerned, the fact that there is no mention of the threats that come out of the Uyghur problem that China faces, the fact that there is no mention of Pahalgam, it is indicative of the fact that there is no sincerity on the part of Chinese establishment, and SCO is just a Pakistani-China nexus mouthpiece.
Look, I think this reflects long-standing tensions in the relationship between India and China. For a long time, Chinese leaders have failed to take Indian interests and Indian security concerns seriously or give them due regard. And now we're just seeing this play out in the SCO. So this has been a forum that China has long used to try to project its image and role as a regional security provider in Eurasia. But as you've noted, its core mission is counterterrorism. Yet the increasingly close ties between China and Pakistan, the fact that Beijing has emerged as Islamabad's principal political and military patron, simply undermine the ability of the SCO to fulfill this role anymore, right? It's subordinate to Beijing's other interests. And I think we have to start to ask whether it's fit for purpose anymore.
Indeed. And this also comes at a time when the Mansarovar Yatra has started after 5 years. It's a very sacred pilgrimage for Hindus. The first batch of pilgrims have gone this year. It's a positive step, but it's really unlikely to address the trust deficit between India and China, isn't it, Dr. Walter?
Absolutely, and I don't want to underrate or downplay how important it is for the individuals taking part. But this is, from a political standpoint, largely symbolic, right? This does very little to alter or properly reflect the broader kind of geopolitical ties between India and China.
Mm-hmm. What about the Pakistan-China nexus? It has grown. It was visible during Operation Sindoor. The Defense Minister of Pakistan also talked about intel sharing. This is a threat that's only growing for India, isn't it?
Absolutely. And you can even just look at the news reports that came out in the last couple of weeks, right after Pakistan got its latest IMF bailout, that suddenly it was going to be buying or receiving from China at a very discounted rate even higher-end fighter aircraft, perhaps the first fifth-generation aircraft in South Asia, that the Chinese were going to upgrade Pakistan's air defense to provide additional ballistic missile coverage, effectively China stepping in to try to shore up all the various holes that the Indian Air Force demonstrated in Pakistan's air defense systems during Sindoor. China is going to help them address. What message should India take from that? It's hard not to see that as a hostile development.
Mm-hmm, indeed. And the Indian security establishment has for long spoken about a two-front war. Our security establishment has mentioned and continue to do so that they're prepared for a two-front war, given the fact that this nexus is only deepening. Which brings me to ask you, Dr. Walter, about the fact that here is an India-China relationship where on one end, the trade aspect of it is flourishing, growing, and then there is the strategic aspect of it where trust deficit is also increasing at the same time. How should New Delhi now be deciding its next course of action with regard to its relationship with China?
Well, I think many countries in the world face this similar sort of dichotomy. The U.S. and China have a large historical trading relationship as well as security tensions. But I would just sort of say we also need to unpack that picture a little more clearly, because although in aggregate, China is a leading trade partner with India, it's extremely lopsided, right? There are massive trade deficits. India imports a significant amount from China, is dependent on a number of range of industries, but sends very little to China. And in fact, in many sectors, the trade is actually a problem and a source of friction. And politically, this is a problem, given how lopsided it is. So it's not like saying that the trade shows positive effects on one side, whereas the security and the geopolitical concerns show something else. In fact, they're often pointing in the same direction, which is problems and tension.
Mm-hmm. As someone who studies this region closely, Dr. Walter, how would you evaluate the Asian rivalry between India and China from here on? Because India is also now a growing economic power. It is now the world's fourth largest economy, plays a very sizable role in global strategic affairs as well, has a voice and is also representing the voice of Global South, so to say. So how do you see this relationship from here on over the course of the next 2 to 3 years?
Well, I think a lot depends on how Beijing engages India, because I think what we're seeing at the SCO play out is just a microcosm of broader patterns, where, as I've said before, China does not look to take India's interests seriously. It does not look to take its concerns seriously. China has its eyes on the United States and wants to be seen as a peer competitor of the United States. It doesn't want to see India as being a peer competitor in Asia, or appear at all. And this is then why we see them bolster and support Pakistan as a way to undercut India's influence, to create problems for India, to prevent India from fulfilling that role that you've described, that you would expect from a country that has the economy the size it does, that has the population size it does, that has the historical and cultural links in Asia that it does. If New Delhi has to spend most of its time focused on Pakistan because China's propping them up, that prevents them from playing a larger role that would potentially, require Beijing to recognize India's influence and give them equal attention in Asia. And that's something that I just have not seen Chinese leaders be willing to do. Mm-hmm.
All right, Professor Walter Ladwig, thanks so much for speaking to us. Dr. Walter Ladwig, Senior Lecturer at the King's College London, speaking to us about the India-China relationship. There's been a thaw, but the SCO summit, of course, now continues to have some sort of an overshadow as far as how this relationship is likely to proceed from here on. Thanks much for speaking to us on NDTV.
Thank you.